Good morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
Vice President Sara Duterte is asking the Supreme Court to junk the House of Representatives' motion for reconsideration on her impeachment case.
Senators grill key government officials and contractors over anomalous flood control projects.
A pro-Duterte vlogger admits that divisions have emerged among supporters of the former president.
Filipina triathlete Kira Ellis reigns supreme in the 2025 Europe Triathlon Junior Women's Cup in Riga, Latvia.
First in the news, Vice President Sara Duterte is asking the Supreme Court to junk the House of Representatives' appeal on her impeachment case. In a 27-page comment, Duterte's legal team said the House's motion for reconsideration has no merit and was not even authorized by the current 20th Congress. They also argued that the Supreme Court's earlier ruling declaring the impeachment complaint unconstitutional needs no correction. The House had claimed the court misread the sequence of events when it ruled that lawmakers committed grave abuse of discretion. But Duterte's camp insisted the appeal is a diversion that fails to present valid grounds to overturn the decision.
All right, in other news, DPWH Secretary Manuel Bonoan admits that some flood control projects may not even exist during the first day of the Blue Ribbon Committee's probe on the matter. Here's a report.
5.9 billion pesos is the funding for 85 flood control projects in Bulacan. But the troubling part, some of those are allegedly ghost projects, according to the Department of Public Works and Highways.
There are ghost projects there. There were ghost projects.
In all confidence, Your Honor, I think so.
That was the admission of DPWH Secretary Manuel Bonoan on the first day of the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee hearing on alleged anomalous flood control project. Ghost projects were said to be found particularly in flood-prone areas in Bulacan, including Kalumpit, Malolos, and Hagonoy. And the contractor, Wawaw Builders, which bagged up to 9 billion pesos worth of contracts since 2021. Almost 6 billion pesos of that was for flood control projects in Bulacan. But were those really projects for flood control, or did we just burn taxpayer money?
Kululukoy dito. Labas nyo kung magkano yung in-award nito sa Wawaw. Kadiri kayo.
15 contractors allegedly cornering multiple flood control projects nationwide were invited to the hearing on Tuesday, but only 7 showed up. That's why the Senate issued subpoenas to the 8 contractors who failed to attend to ensure their presence in the next hearing. Among those summoned by the Senate were Wawaw Builders' Mark Alan Arevalo, Sara Discaya of Alpha and Omega, Maria Roma Angeline Remando of St. Timothy Construction, and Yumer Villanueva of Top Notch Catalyst Builders, among others.
Para hong ginagago itong committee natin na may sakit, nagbakasyon na, may mga prior schedule. Ano mas importante, prior schedule, Mr. Chair? Or itong investigasyon ito because 544 billion na pinag-uusapan natin.
May I move for the issuance of subpoena to those absent invited resource persons, particularly yung mga contractors, Mr. Chair, to require them to be present in the next hearing. I so move, Mr. Chair.
But it's not just ghost projects at issue. Senator Sherwin Gatchalian also raised possible hocus-pocus in pre-qualification. Even with low capitalization, some contractors supposedly cornered multi-billion projects. For example, MG Samidan Construction and Development Corporation, with only 250,000 pesos in capitalization, was awarded 5.2 billion pesos worth of contract. Similarly, QM Builders Incorporated, with only 1.2 million pesos in capital, bagged 7.3 billion pesos in contract.
Ilang project ang na-execute mo na?
Marami na eh.
O kanina sinabi mo, hindi ka pa nakapag-umpisa eh. Meron akong hawak na martilyo rito, sinasabi ko sa'yo.
Mr. Chair.
Huwag kang tatawa-tawa kasi hindi nakakatawa ito, ha?
Mr. Chairman.
Dito lang nagsisinungaling ka na eh.
According to the DPWH, if ghost projects are proven, the contractors will face charges. But the question remains, where is the money and why didn't the COA detect it?
Sir, sa ngayon po, sir, since we are still consolidating and gathering data from our regional and district auditors.
Alam niyo yung problema, you have a very standard way of answering us.
Yes, sir.
You are still waiting for your regional offices. Alam niyo yung problema ninyo, Madam COA? Kasi puro kayo post-audit eh.
In the coming weeks, the committee is set to continue its hearings on possible anomalies.
And for more updates over at the Senate, we have mobile journalist Merimon Reyes. Merimon.
Good morning sa inyo. So far ngayong araw na to nagsisimula na ang unang pagdinig ng Food Security, Agriculture and Agrarian Reform Committee dito sa Senado. At ang pinangungunahan nga yan ni Senator Kiko Pangilinan, kasama ang co-chairperson niya na si Senadora Rodante Marcoleta. Ang nais nitong matulakay ngayong araw is yung privileged speech ni Senator Kiko Pangilinan noong isang session tungkol nga sa agriculture and food security. Currently, nagpe-presenta ngayon mula sa DFA, ito nga si Yusek Asis Perez, at naibahagi niya nga na ang nagiging problema daw dito para sa agri-fishery sector is hindi naman sinasabi nga hindi nag-grow pero napag-iiwanan na ng ibang mga sektor. Layo nitong komite na makita sa ngayong araw na ito yung kondisyon ngayon, estado ng agrikultura at saka ng fisheries at kung paano raw maaaring mapababa yung presyo lalong-lalo na pagdating sa kanin o bigas dahil nakikita nga nila pagdating daw sa budget ng Pilipinas kung ikukumpara sa ibang mga bansa, sa Pilipinas 1.7% lang ng budget ang binigay. So that's around 7.86 billion $7.6 billion kung i-convert to. Pero kung i-convert to sa Singapore, around 5.8 million lang yung population nila pero halos double na yung export nila at malaki yung nilalaan nila na budget patungkol dun sa kanilang agrikultura at kumukuha nga sa atin ng export. So ito yung ilang mga problema o issue na nais matalakay din ng senador. Mamaya naman at magsasagawa na rin ng pagdinig. Tabi-tabi dito yung mga hearing ng tourism, ng SDGs, even ng culture and the Muslim Affairs ni Senator Robin Padilla. Tapos mamayang hapon, session and inaasahan natin na magkakaroon ng privilege speech si Senador Ping Lacson patungkol dito sa flood control projects. Balik sa inyo.
Oh yeah. Merimon, kailan ba yung next hearing? Ayun, nabanggit mo na rin kanina, no? Pero I wanna go to that issue, no? Yung flood control projects na naging hearing yesterday. I was wondering, since present naman ang mga taga-DPWH, tanong na ba ng mga senador during the investigation paano yung talagang proseso ng DPWH pagdating dito sa pag-i-implement ng flood control projects sa iba't ibang mga lugar? The reason why I ask this because of course alam naman natin, naririnig natin sa mga balita, napapanood natin, more particularly in Bulacan, si Governor Dan Fernando is saying na nababypass siya, hindi niya alam na may ganitong project sa Bulacan, etc. So at this point, we're just finger-pointing, sila ay nag-finger-pointing dun sa mga issue na yan. So right now, we want to know, ano ba talaga yung proseso?
Actually, Angela, yan ang sinabi rin ni Secretary Bonoan kahapon. Itong kamakailan niya lang daw nalaman, pero pinangakuhan niyang iimbestigahan niya itong supposed ghost flood control projects na nakakapasok. Kaya sinabi rin na Senadora Mig Zubiri, wag lang daw pupuntiryahin o papansinin o pupunahin ang DPWH. Maganda rin daw na tignan yung budget, yung amendments daw na ginagawa ng House Small Committee. Kasi baka raw hindi daw napapansin, doon nagkakaroon ng pagsingit. Kaya nagkaroon din ng mainit na conversation itong mga komite na nais nilang malaman sino nga ba kung mayroon mang mga kongresista na nagre-request daw ng additional budget. Maaring dito nagkakaroon nung nagiging pagpasok supposedly ng ghost projects na sa simula wala naman daw doon sa budget appropriations pero napupunta ngayon yung pinaka-procurement sa mga proyektong ito. At ang sinabi naman ng DPWH, hopefully sa susunod na pagdinig, magbibigay raw sila ng mas malinaw nilang investigasyon patungkol dito. Angela?
Yeah, Merimon, kasi what we want to know is yung proseso from, kunyari, na-award na yung project doon sa isang lugar, particularly in Bulacan, dahil yan yung malaki-laki yung issue. Diba? Ano yung role ng LGU pagdating ng DPWH doon sa lugar na yon? Because apparently, sinasabi nga ng Bulacan ni Governor Dan Fernando, wala silang alam. When in fact, ang alam nating posisyon, no, ang alam nating proseso, dapat, of course, alam din ng LG yung ginagawa ng DPWH sa lugar nila.
Oh, Angela, para yung may sinasabi at sa ilang mga proyekto nagkakaroon dyan ng pagbibidding din. So kung ikukumpara natin dito, for example, sa flood control projects, itong mga kumpanya, magpe-presenta rin sila. Kaya nagkakaroon dito ng granting o awarding no mismo ng kontrata o ng proyekto. Kaya dito nagkakaroon din ng question doon sa mga companies o sa mga construction corporations na ito, bakit yung mga maliliit daw na yung mga kumpanya raw supposedly na, for example, itong QM Builders, sole proprietor pa lang sila, hindi pa raw sila corporation, mababa pa ang kapital nito supposedly. Bakit daw nagrantan sila ng DPWH nitong mga proyekto? So yun yung gusto nilang makita. Ano nga ba yung possible daw na oversight na nangyari doon mismo sa awarding o kaya naman doon sa proseso ng bidding? Kasi tinitingnan nila dito, baka rin daw merong panghihiram daw, pagpapahiram ng lisensya, kaya na-awardan yung mga flood control projects doon sa ilang mga construction companies.
Yes, Mary, linawin ko lang, ito yung mga flood control projects specifically sa Bulacan area. This is a national government project, no? Hindi to local government.
Yes, oo. Totoo, tama yan. At isa pa, dagdag na rin natin, naging concern din nila dyan, is kung i-compare din daw sa ilang mga malaking proyekto, for example, may isang revetment project naman na nireklamo o pinuntirya itong Senator Marcoleta. Bilyon-bilyon yung budget na nila andito, pero parang nasa 5% lang, 15% lang yung materials na gawa sa bakal. Yung iba bato, yung iba lupa. So, dito nila tinitignan na parang nagkakaroon ng tas pagdating doon din sa budget allocation, kaya nagiging palpak o kaya naman substandard ang materyales sa mga ito.
Meron, speaking of yung yung sa Senado, no, just like the House, kasi parang pinag-usapan nila to, sa Senado ba are they open na magkaroon ng third party na mag-imbestiga din sa mga issues sa flood control project? Kasi I heard may mga ibang senador na supposedly are part of the list.
Oo, kasama na rin dyan na halimbawa si Congressman Arnolfo, dating kongresistang si Arnolfo Teves na nagbigay ng kanyang initiative. Nagsulat siya dito nga sa opisina ni Senatora Dante Marcoleta na bukas siyang magbahagi rin ng kanyang kaalaman daw bilang kongresista sa nakaraan tungkol nga dito sa issue ng flood control projects. Ang nasabi sa atin ng media officer ni Senator Marcoleta, informed na daw ang senador patungkol dito pero wala pang acknowledgement or confirmation kung magiging bahagi ba ng sunod na pagdinig itong dating kongresista. Pero ang malinaw sa ngayon, itong 8 kontratista na hindi pumunta, ipasasabpina at aasahan na pupunta sa sunod na pagdinig. Pero so far, wala pang schedule yung next hearing ng Blue Ribbon Committee.
Okay, ako naman, Merriman, I wanna go doon naman sa issue ng pag-appoint ng members ng Commission on Appointments dyan sa Senado. I think nagkaroon din ng clash between Senator Tito Soto and Senator Villanueva. At may mga pagbabago na rin sa listahan ng mga miyembro nito. Can you tell us more about it?
Angela, nagkaroon natong Lunes, nung unang session this week, nagkaroon na nung pag-appoint din para sa Commission on Appointment. So far, naging issue kasi dito, ang in-erase ni Minority Leader Tito Soto, parang hindi yata balanse yung members nitong 12 members ng CA. Majority kasi nung time na yun, 10 na nanggagaling na sa majority. So, ang natitira na lang 2, magmumula na ito sa minority. Pero ang pinaka-problema nila dito is yung computation. Ang sinasabi supposedly may around 2.5 pa. May may computation yung proportion ng 80-20 na sinasabi ni Senator Joel Villanueva base sa ruling ng Korte Suprema. Pero ngayon, ang nangyari nung time na yon is nag-back out muna temporarily si Senator Alan Peter Cayetano habang hindi pa raw ito nabubuo na kukumpleto. And so far, kahapon narinig na rin natin na include na si Senadora Loren Legarda from the minority dito sa CA. At asahan natin na mas maayos na makukumpleto na nila ito. Pero lingering issue pa rin kung paano nga ba dapat computein kung ilan ba yung miyembro ng CA. Angela?
I think meron ng announcement din si Senator Villanueva na nasama na rin si Senate Deputy Minority Leader Risa Ontiveros at saka si Senator Juan Miguel Zubiri. Nako. Alright, sige. Maraming salamat sa iyo sa ating mobile journalist Merrimon Reyes live dyan ngayon sa Senado. Diba? Ang daming issue talaga dyan sa
Senado. Sa appointment sa parang sinasabi Tito Soto, the basis should be not really of minority majority but of party affiliation.
Party affiliation.
Because ang pinaka-basis ng appointments is from different parties, di ba? Parang to get the real perspective of balance and accountability.
Yes.
Kasi you have to remember, may contingent din ang Congress sa CAs. This is the Senate contingent.
Yes.
Tapos,
12-12 yan.
12-12 yan, oo.
So sinasabi nga ni Senator Tito Soto, yung party representation, kasi ang daming mga computation na sinasabi ni Senator Villanueva, when in fact, sabi niya, parang ang labo naman, unfair ata yan na puro majority yun nandiyan sa listahan.
Tsaka yung mga appointees ng ina-appoint ng presidente,
tsaka powerful committee
nanggagaling
yan.
sa mga partido yan. So that's why they said, each members of at least a party has to have a representative to make sure na balanse ang pag-a-appoint nila sa mga officials na ito. So, yun ang purpose nun. May sariling interpretasyon na naman ang atin na
Pero at
upper
least nakinig
house,
sila kay
upper
kay
chamber.
Senator Tito Soto.
Alright, amid questions on the government's multi-billion peso flood control projects, the province of Isabela is voicing disappointment for not getting enough funding despite the area's high flood risk. Here's the report.
Isabela Governor Rodito Albano expressed disappointment over President Bongbong Marcos's list of provinces with the most flood control projects. Although Isabela ranked third with 341 since 2022, Albano said the province should have received more funding, highlighting its vulnerability to flooding.
Masama loob ko dyan eh. Kasi dapat, instead of number 3 kami dyan sa list, dapat kami naging number 1 eh. Kasi talagang flood-prone ang Isabela. Isabela at Cagayan. Ano? We're talking of real projects. Kung real itong mga to, pero kung ghost yung mga yan, ay ibang usapan na yun. You have to understand. We have the Cagayan River. Ang Cagayan River, ang pinakamahabang river sa buong Pilipinas.
In an interview with Storycon, he stressed that local governments have no final say in how these projects are carried out, as decisions and funding come from higher authorities.
Bakit kami sisisihin? Unang-una, hindi nanggaling sa amin yung pondo. Pangalawa, hindi kami nag-determine yan. Siyempre, ang nagde-determine yan yung national government. Hindi kami pwedeng sisihin ng mga tao dyan sa mga flood control projects na yan. Kasi alam nila hindi sa amin yan.
Albano added that he is willing to speak up for local contractors involved, urging an end to the ongoing blame game. Meanwhile, Bulacan Governor Daniel Fernando told a big story that flood control projects in the province are carried out by the Department of Public Works and Highways without coordinating with the provincial government. Fernando said he issued an executive order requiring all DPWH projects in Bulacan to be approved through the provincial capital. He also admitted being surprised by incomplete and substandard flood control work in the province.
Hindi po sinabit sa amin ng mga project na yan. Kaya hindi namin alam kung saan yung mga project na yan. Nagawa po ulit ako ng executive order na lahat ng mga project ng national government, ng mga DPWH, yadaan muna sa amin.
Yan yung ngayong nire-raise ko na issue kay Mary Mon kanina eh. Dahil at this point, parang finger-pointing pa rin sila dito sa nangyari. Nangyayari, actually.
Medyo bandang dulo kasi if you have to understand, national project to.
Yes,
so therefore, national project, walang involvement whatsoever ang LGU. Ang nagiging...
Sa implementation.
Whatsoever, because it's a national project. Meron ng mga tinatawag local government project also. That's maintenance of local roads. Ngayon, for example, take away Commonwealth Avenue. Dumadaan straight into Quezon City yon. Pag nagkakasira dyan, ang tanong, sino mag-aayos? Hindi po local government yon. That is the national DPWH. So therefore, ang DPWH can come in at any time. And ang nagiging problema lang in the past, is because sinasabi nila, nagkaka-traffic, kasi hindi nagko-coordinate ang DPWH sa local counterpart. Talagang dapat naman mag-coordinate.
May coordination.
Dapat.
Yung sinabi din naman ng DPWH yan doon sa hearing yesterday sa Senado na LGUs, dapat meron din silang coordination with them. Not necessarily implementation, but coordination. Kasi yun nga sinasabi ni Governor Daniel Fernando dahil of course, probinsya niya ang nakikita ngayon na maraming flood control projects, maraming amount yung pinag-uusapan dyan, pero mga nakatiwangwang, substandard, or abandoned projects. Kaya sinasabi niya, wala akong alam dyan, kasi binabypass naman kami ng national government.
Ang problema dito is, before we go, ang problema dito, sinasabi ng iba, wala kang involvement sa implementation, pinapa-imbestiga mo yan, pero time and time again, alam mong nagbabaha lagi yan. Di ba kung ikaw ang isang leader ng probinsya mo, At
Alamin mo.
Nagbabaha. Teka lang, puntahan ko nga itong project
Pero
na
sasagutin niya yan, sabihin niya, nagtanong nga daw siya, gumawa siya ng ad hoc committee.
Yeah, but itong mga politiko na to pa sa campaign, kung matagal ka ng governor, so kung sa kampanya pa lang, release mo na. Itong national government na to, hanggang ngayon baha sa amin. Si Vice Governor Alex Castro, in interview natin, he came out on TV and said, nananawagan po ako sa national government, please lang, di ba sabi niya, tulungan nyo kami dito. Kasi lagi na nagbabaha, parang wala na nangyayari.
Every year, pinag-uusapan nga natin yung baha na yan sa iba't ibang lugar. And also, especially Isabela as well.
Bata pa lang ako, problema na to eh. Hanggang ngayon, problema pa rin to.
Kailangan himayin talaga yung mga issue na yan. Sino yung dapat, kumbaga, managot dito sa mga anomalous
yung video na yan, nakikita nyo ni Pangulo with the governor, yan yung time na sinabi niyang semento na bumiyak na parang pulbos. Yung nakakahiya, yung Pangulo na mismo ang umano ng semento.
Yes. Basta sa akin, at the end of the day, gusto ko may makitang managot because what we're doing right now, investigation, videos that showing the presidents looking at the flood control projects na mga abandoned and substandard, yan po for me ay until, kung walang mangyayaring kumbaga accountability dyan, lip service na lang yan makikita natin. But tingnan natin, bigyan natin ng benefit of the doubt. Bandang huli gusto natin makita sino talaga dapat yung managot dito. But we'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. At this point, let's check in on the hearing at the House of Representatives.
The House Committee on Appropriations is holding its deliberation on PAGCOR's proposed budget for 2026. Let's tune in.
Operations nila. Let me know if any of these companies sound familiar po. You may have investigation already into it. VShow, which is a corporation operating an online platform or application known as Popo Live.
Illegal po yan.
Yes. Another is FM 1039 Company Limited, operating under the application of Bolo Pro.
Illegal din po yan.
Another operating is Tap Vone, application operating in the Philippines under the name of Vone.
Illegal din po yan.
Another is Yulo Network Technology, operating under the application of or platform of Awas.
Illegal din po.
Another company is Sinin Technology Corporation Limited, operating as an online live platform called Nikki Live.
Illegal po.
Another is Bit Hong Kong Limited under the online application of Gem Gala.
Illegal po.
X Travel Entertainment Limited, operating under the name Hime.
Illegal po.
And last on this list is Party Joy Limited, operating under the application HiChat.
Illegal po.
Mr. Chair, are you aware that these companies continue to operate?
Yes, Congressman po. I had mentioned earlier, they are part of the close to 12,000 illegal sites that we have reported to the respective agencies and departments that I had mentioned earlier. And to the credit of these departments, the ICT, CICC, PNP Anti-Cybercrime, the NBI, they had put down 8,000 of the almost 12,000 illegal sites that we have reported to them.
Opo, napakaraming illegal online
Kaya
gambling
po yun ang
sites.
binabanggit ko, Congressman po. Natitiyak ko sa inyo, mas marami pong illegal kesa sa legal sa pangkasalukuyan. Kaya po yung nadidinig nating mga kapataang nalululon, mga na-addict, natitiyak ko po sa inyo, dahil walang regulasyon ang mga illegal na mga kumpanyang ito, maliwanag po, yun po ang cost ng malaking problema ngayon ng online gambling industry dito po sa ating bansa.
The reason why I bring this up in this hearing today is because, one, these companies seem to continue to be operating. Tama naman po, sa alam ko, the information was already passed on to GAB, and that GAB has passed on information to the CICC as well as the NBI. In fact, I have with me copies of the complaints submitted to the NBI last June, as well as copies of the complaints against these companies submitted to the CICC last July. The reason why I bring this up, Mr. Chair, is para alam na mga kababayan natin ang proseso pagdating sa pagtanggal ng mga illegal na online gambling natin. Ang importante dito, these companies continue to operate and target Filipinos. Let's take, for example, Popo Life, which continues to operate. What many people don't know is that it operates under the guise of a normal gaming app, which is available on Google Play. No? Pero there's a sophisticated network of converting yung mga tokens into actual cash. And this is what's being flagged, if I'm not mistaken, by PAGCOR. And you're saying you receive thousands of complaints similar to this every day, which is passed to the CICC as well as the NBI. Tama po?
Kasama din po sa DICT at NTC. We report them on a daily basis, Congressman po.
The reason why I bring this up, Madam Chair, especially in this hearing, is because PAGCOR is one of our largest revenue-generating bodies in government. And if we were to take these 8 companies as an example of online gambling, which is unregulated and currently profiting, based on my sources, they make about $50 million minimum each a month, which should be taxed and given back to government, no? If it's allowed to operate to begin with. Now, if you combine that per annum, we're looking at basically 1.4 billion, which could be revenue because of the 30% that we're supposed to be getting, no? That's equivalent to 82 billion pesos a year just from these 8 companies alone. The reason why I'm highlighting this in this hearing today is because we need to strengthen the CMED of PAGCOR, and we need to look into the processes of the cease and desist with the NBI, CICC, and DICT. As it is, many people want to complain. They're confused about the process. They believe that PAGCOR is the agency tasked with taking all of these sites down. As the chairman has explained, he needs the assistance of these law enforcement agencies. So with all that being said, I will be furnishing copies of these reports back to PAGCOR as well as to the media so that they can conduct their own independent study into these operations, and I will also be giving copies to the chair. With that, I yield the floor.
Thank you very much, Representative Po. We'll move to our next interpolator from the minority, Representative Renico.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good morning po sa inyo. Bilang representante ng kabataan, we are very concerned dito sa krisis ng gambling na maraming nabibiktima na kabataan. Just very quickly, I'd like to share some data. PAGCOR itself would report in its website that it reached 114 billion pesos in revenue just this year, January to June. It goes to show kung gaano kadami yung engaged in online gambling sites, because this revenue is just for online gambling, and it now marks 53% of the country's total gross gaming revenues. And studies do show na ganun kadami yung involved na mga Filipino and kabataan sa online gambling. 66% of Filipinos aged 18 to 24 are engaged in online gambling. And this is in line with world surveys as well, which would say na kids ages 12 to 18, 2/3 of adolescents ng ganong age say they would have gambled. And even trying it once, during these important times ng development natin, makes us susceptible to addiction when we're older. So given yung ganong klaseng datos, we're very concerned, and therefore, And sabi nga natin, no, currently, PAGCOR requires operators to bar under 21 players. Pero paano po ba nasasagawa yung enforcement in an online environment? May mekanismo po ba para masiguradong epektibo na naipapatupad yung mga restrictions?
Magandang umaga po at salamat sa inyong katanungan, Congresswoman. Una po, liliwanagin ko muli, ang PAGCOR po ang isa na sa buong mundo na merong age restriction kung saan dapat po 21 taong gulang ang nakapaglalaro. So definitely, hindi po 18, hindi po 19 or 20, but 21. So, liliwanagin ko po yun. Very strict tayo. Ngayon, dun sa katanungan nyo po kung meron ba talagang proseso, as a user, kailangan, ang tinutukoy ko po yung lisensyado. Ano po? Yung legal. You are required to register first before you can play. And in the registration, you have to state your age and you have to present at least one valid government ID. So, sabi ko nga po ito sa mga nagtatanong sa akin, ang natitiyak ko po ay sabihin na natin hindi kayo makapagre-rehistro kung hindi kayo 21 taong gulang at kung wala kayong isang valid government ID. So, totoo po, may nakalulusot. Yung mga fake na ID ko minsan ang ginagamit. Pero sa legal or sa licenses po ng PAGCOR, I think very small percentage lang po yung nakalulusot doon sa 21 and below. Pero talagang ang problema po, at sinabi ko po dito sa katanungan kanina ni Congressman Jokno at sinagot ko, ang malaki pong problema natin at talagang pinakikiusap ko sa mga mambabatas na yun, bigyan natin ng pansin yung mga illegal sites. Kasi ma'am, paniwala po namin, doon nakakapaglaro talaga yung mga kabataan. Dahil wala pong regulasyon, wala pong restriction sa age. So tama po kayo at sumasang-ayon po ako sa inyo na maumpisan lang yan minsan nasundan ng pangalawa, 3 beses ma-addict na. Kaya talaga pong dito sa aming side ng licenses, 70 lang naman po yung licenses natin kontra sa mga...
Alright, that was the ongoing House Appropriations Committee budget hearing on PAGCOR. Earlier, we saw Vice Chairman Congressman Brian Poe discussing it with, of course, PAGCOR Chairman Alejandro Tecco.
They're discussing the lists of mga illegal online gambling sites. Kasi before they assign a budget, they scrutinize ano yung ginawa, ano yung past projects nila, ano yung how well they function. And yun ang magiging basis whether they are awarded a budget na hinihingi nila or lower. All right, in other news, Leyte 4th District Representative Richard Gomez slammed a city mayor for repeatedly accusing lawmakers of corruption. In a social media post, Gomez said such accusations are being used for political gain. He urged the mayor to raise concerns directly with the district's representative instead of issuing general statements against the House of Representatives. Gomez added that while the mayor focuses on corruption claims, his city continues to face serious problems. These include worsening air quality, poor public transport, ineffective waste management, overcrowding, illegal structures, and weak urban planning.
Now let's head over to the House of Representatives again for the other updates. We have mobile journalist Amy Atienza reporting on the ground. Hey, Amy.
Yes, good morning, Angela Diego. Kanina nga nakita natin ang ilang bahagi ng House Committee on Appropriations Budget Briefing kasama ang PAGCOR. Pero kaninang umaga, nakita rin natin si Kamanggagawa Party List Representative Eli San Fernando na nag-file nga ng pagiging unconstitutional daw ng privatization naman ng PAGCOR. So nasabi niya dito na kinakailangan ng workers' rights dahil may nakuha daw siyang mga ulat na around 1,000 workers yung nabigyan ng parang resignation or dun sa PAGCOR. So yun yung gusto niyang ilaban at syempre nais niya daw na maipaalam pa na ito nga ang PAGCOR, kahit nga daw, dahil nga daw may budget sila, mahihirapan daw kung ipa-privatize dahil 15 to 20% lang daw yung nire-remit ng mga private companies pagdating dito sa batas, compared na kung titingnan natin yung sa usual na ginagawa nga ng PAGCOR na state-owned, no, talagang 100% yung naibibigay. At kanina rin sa presentation ng PAGCOR, nakita natin na meron pa silang mga nais na flagship projects. Kaya nga sinusulong pa nila na magkaroon pa ng budget mula nga dito sa Kamara. So kabilang dyan sa mga flagship projects, no, ay magkakaroon ng e-learning centers, pati na rin yung sa mga socio-economic activities at saka social-civic activities na makakatulong para mag-facilitate nga nitong well-being daw ng mga Filipinos. Angela, Diego?
Yes, Amy, aside from PAGCOR, ano pa ang ahensya ang nakaschedule dyan para sa hearing na yan?
Well, later today at 1:30 p.m., inaabangan din natin na makakasama nga natin ang Philippine Sweepstakes Charity Office. No? So, sila naman yung makakapanayam ng House Committee on Appropriations mamaya para nga dito sa budget hearing. So, abangan din natin if may mga questions din ba na may tatanong dito sa PCSO, no. At bukod pa dyan, no, madagdag ko lang din kasi dito nga sa isinagawang briefing ng PAGCOR, nai-report na rin ng PAGCOR na simula nga nung pinaalis yung pag-unlink ng digital payment platforms, pati na rin sa mga online gambling sites ng DSP, nasa 50% na daw yung pagbaba ng mga online gambling transactions.
Okay, Amy, I remember sabi nga nila itong 2026 proposed national budget would be, ang promise nila ay would be the most transparent dahil nga dun sa nangyari na debate or kaguluhan sa 2025 budget, which is dubbed as the most corrupt budget in Philippine history. So right now, we've seen naka-live stream itong budget hearing, but who are the invited financial advocates, no, para makinig dito sa hearing na to? And yung hinihingi ba ni Congressman Toby Tiangco na listahan nitong members ng small committee na ibigay na?
Well, patungkol dun sa hinihingi nga ni Representative Tiangco, no, na transparency report ng small committee last year, wala pa tayong update na nakukuha dyan, pero most likely nga ay isa-set aside muna dahil napakarami ding hearings na nangyayari dito bukod nga sa House Committee on Appropriations. And actually, may mga financial advocates dito na in-invite, though hindi natin nakuha yung mga pangalan nila, pero present sila dito, and actually, dahil nga naka-livestream din naman ito, ay available din naman daw ito para sa publiko talaga. So, sinusulong nga nila na maging mas transparent dito sa mga budget briefing na ito. Though ang pakiusap lang talaga dahil medyo matagal ay sanang araw ay tumutok ang publiko at hindi nga daw manawa sa pakikinig.
Alright, sige. Maraming salamat sa ating mobile journalist Amy Atienza reporting live from the House of Representatives.
Don't go away because we're not done yet. Please stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News.
Vlogger Alvin Zarzate admitted that divisions have emerged among supporters of former President Rodrigo Duterte. In an interview with Sa Totoo Lang, Zarzate said he opted not to join any group to avoid being linked to solicitation or political drama. He stressed that quiet, personal support is enough for him as a private citizen. The vlogger also confirmed he did not attend the so-called peace meeting organized by former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque due to a conflict in his schedule. Despite this, he assured that he remains cordial with fellow supporters and continues to back initiatives for former President Duterte.
Nakaka-sad nga po na nangyari na meron na talagang identified na dalawang factions. Kasi nagsimula po ito lahat, we were really united in solidarity to show our unwavering love and support doon po sa ating dating Pangulong Rodrigo Roa Duterte. Po akong problema sa mga grupo-grupo at walang-wala po akong problema, ma'am, sa DDS at saka sa Maisog na organization or sa pangkalahatang DDS individuals na sumusuporta kay PRRD.
Pati yung mga supporters si FPRRD, may breakup na rin yung unit team nila. At sila nag-aaway, may division. Yan minention din naman ni former presidential spokesperson Harry Roque. Diba, sabi niya, kasi nag-ugat yan, hindi naman daw talaga sa umba ang issue niya. Nag-ugat daw ng kanilang alitan is yun nga, hindi daw type ng maisog yung
You have to remember
DDS,
kasi
maisog.
Yung Duterte factions kasi meron yung tinatawag din yung Bongo faction, meron yung Sara Duterte faction. Alam naman natin
may hanilet din ba?
Di ba, hindi naman bago sa politika to. Alam mo, panahon ni Pinoy, ang daming grupo within the administration na nag-aaway-away. Diba? So, ganun yan eh. May kanya-kanyang grupo yan that really don't like each other, that they're jockeying for position kay PRRD. Nagsimula tong chismis about si Bongo and VP Sara. Mula nung nanganak yung faction na pala. Meron nga pala. And some groups don't like Spokes Harry Roque. Came out, admittedly, matagal na daw niya hindi gusto yon. Si Attorney Sal Panelo. Remember? Sinabi niya yan. So,
hindi nga daw niya kilala eh.
It's just that hindi exposed ang issue na ito noon. Ngayon lang na-expose dahil sa Humba brought it to light. So, pasalamat sa Humba na nailabas itong
kayo na lang mag-aaway pa kayo.
Alright, in other news, have you ever tried climbing what has been dubbed as Mount Kamuning? Alam ko yan. Yes, nakita ko na yan. The Department of Transportation is set to replace that with a new structure designed to be more commuter-friendly. Para bigyan ng mukha ang balita, Mobile Journal, Evan Tarinque.
Magiging mas madali, mas komportable at mas inclusive na ang pagduwid sa EDSA. Yan ang layunin ng bagong footbridge na papalit sa infamous na Mount Kamuning. May walkway, elevators at meron pang wheelchair lift. Kompleto ang bagong disenyo ng Kamuning Footbridge na papalit sa mas kilalang Mount Kamuning sa Nia South Road. Mas malapit na rin ito sa EDSA busway kaya hindi na kailangan pang maglakad ng malayo ang mga pedestrian para nang tumawid sa kabilang kalsada. Inaasahan na makakatulong ito sa pagbawas ng siksikan tuwing rush hour.
Time talaga to have a dedicated entrance and exit into the busway station sa Kamuning.
Approved naman ang planong ito para sa mga commuter.
Yung isang sakayan nun papuntang MRT tsaka carousel. So okay para hindi siya nagsisiksikan yung mga tao.
Hindi lang Kamuning ang babaguhin. Kasama sa isa sa ilalim sa rehabilitasyon ang bagong baryo, Monumento, North Avenue at Guadalupe Busway Station. Sa mga planong inilabas ng DOTR, uniform ang disenyo ng mga ito at ang pinakalayunin ay gawing mas malapit, mas ligtas at mas accessible ito para sa lahat. Bukod dyan, may tatayo pang bagong 3 busway station, 2 sa PITX at 1 sa Ortigas. Pag natapos ang proyekto, aabot na sa 26 ang kabuuang bilang ng EDSA busway station sa taong 2026. Sa ngayon, inaasahang matatapos ang bagong Kamuning Busway Station sa December. Pagkatapos niyan, sisimulan na ang demolition ng Mount Kamuning.
That is not acceptable to us because it's inconvenient, it's uncomfortable, it's not inclusive. And that is contrary to our vision of an inclusive mobility infrastructure program. So kailangan mawala yan.
Mula sa pagiging simbolo ng pahirap sa mga commuter, ang Mount Kamuning ay magiging alaala na lang. At sana'y hindi na maulit ang naging pagkakamali dito para na rin sa kapakanan ng lahat. O pag Junay Ivan Tarinque po hatid, ang mukha na balita.
Now, the country has its first ever portable quantum computer, giving students and researchers a chance to explore the future of computing. Mobile journalist Denise Valdesancho has the report.
The Philippines is now in its quantum era. Say hello to the country's first ever portable NMR quantum computer. Recently acquired by the Quantum Computing Society of the Philippines, the 2 qubits compact quantum system allows students and researchers to learn more about quantum mechanics.
There are some computation na hindi kaya ng classical computer for trillions of years na kayang gawin ng quantum computer in just seconds or at most hours now.
The technology is expected to open new opportunities for research and innovation, with potential applications in fields like cybersecurity.
If the quantum computer that is powerful enough now and is fault tolerant enough already exists, then yung mga algorithms na ginagamit natin sa encryption will all be broken.
Quantum technology is also being studied for practical applications, such as strengthening disaster risk management and improving power distribution to help reduce the risk of brownouts. The compact quantum computer is now with the QCSP to be primarily used for research and education, particularly in developing small-scale quantum algorithms. With this new era of computing, experts believe that the future of quantum technology lies in the hands of the youth.
Because of quantum computing, meron tayong another research frontier that we can take a look, no? It's not only important sa scientific community, no? We should not limit ourselves to that, no? Di ba, meron tayong reading, writing, arithmetic, di ba? Computing is like the fourth fundamental skill, no? Kaya importante din na yung ating education on quantum technologies will not only be in the university but also up to the elementary.
Mobile journalist Denise Valdesancho. We are One News.
Before we move, malaking bagay itong quantum computer. Nabanggit nga ni Elmer sa akin, sa Ant-Man yun. Para for reference, kasi ang computers that we have now, pag nagkakaroon ng problem, nagta-troubleshoot siya mag-isa and then re-resolve yung issue. Sa quantum computer, bago pa lang mangyari isang problema, weeks before that, alam niyang may parating na problema. The computer will react and hindi na reactive, it takes measures na hindi na mangyari yun. Wow. So kung baga, parang kung manonood ka ng pelikula, parang si Skynet sa Terminator, yung iniisip niya na may nangyayari, malaking bagay yan yung quantum.
Malaking bagay, sabi nga nila. Pero dapat gamitin sa maayos.
Isipin mo, if 100 people have regular computers, as one person has quantum computer, naungusan mo silang
easy
lahat.
life din yan, ano?
Nakakatakot. Pero let's see, for the benefit of the, the public, di ba? Alright, Filipina triathlete Kira Ellis dominated the 2025 Europe Triathlon Junior Women's Cup in Riga, Latvia. The 18-year-old broke away in the run leg to outpace Belgium and Germany, securing the top podium spot among 15 competitors from 10 countries. It was a strong comeback for Ellis after a recent shin injury boosted by a PSC-backed training camp in Portugal. Ellis, a SEA Games gold medalist, is set to lead the Philippine triathlon team in this year's regional games in Thailand.
Congratulations!
Bilib ako dyan sa mga
Pilipinas represent.
Sa mga triathlete na yan, grabe.
Galing,
ang niya,
discipline yan.
Overall health niya, di ba? From biking, magtatakbo pa yan. Really, hardcore cardiovascular training yan.
Napaka-healthy.
Ha? Nahiya naman ako. Pero congratulations dito. Ang dami ng athletes na lalabasan sa Pilipinas. Na hindi lang basketball.
Yes.
We have basketball, volleyball, boxing, di ba, triathlon.
Chess,
si Carlos Yulo. Di ba lumabas sa gymnastics. So very
venture out na tayo sa iba't ibang
very diverse ang portfolio ng mga athlete natin. Buti pa sila na ginagawang tama mga nagpa-flood control project dyan. Ay nako. At dahil dyan may quote ako para sa mga gumagawa ng budget sa flood control project. And the quote goes, "Corruption doesn't begin with power, it begins with permission. The moment silence greets wrongdoing, decay sets in." Yan The moment silence greets wrongdoing. So yung mga mayor and governor na pumapayag, wala mo na ako sinabi ko sino. And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views. Wait, before that, by the way, our big boss,
August 20.
Our big boss, si Mama SGO, Shena Olaso.
Happy birthday
happy birthday po, ma'am. Sana naman
Maluwag po yung lamesa namin.
Kasya ang dito. Ano ba kasya dito?
Okay na
baka,
tayo
lechon baka.
Lechon okay na tayo.
Kahit lechon manok. Alright, that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again tomorrow. I'm Angela Lagasan Castro.
I'm Angelo Castro III. Oy, pwede humba! We are One News.
All sides, all the time.